Greetings, Summoners. Cosmic here, and welcome back to the Champions Corner once more. And I am joined by the Brisbane champion, Wei. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. Just got back yesterday. Oh, well, Monday night from Brisbane. Had a day of touristing around, sort of saw the sights. Didn't cop enough L's in the tournament, so I went to watch the Marvels.
Oh,
Uh,
no.
that movie's actually fine. I don't get why people are complaining. Like, it's a bit more of a chick flick than like the other Marvel movies, but it's fine. Like, don't complain, guys. It's a fine movie.
Yeah, it's been funny watching all the headlines come around it, and like I'm still gonna go watch it because I am curious, and I think it might not be that bad, but it's definitely an interesting one that has been on Twitter and like all social media and talking about that. But with that out of the way and a nice quick intro, tell us a little bit about yourselves. Tell us about your Battle Spirit Saga history, what other card games you've played previously, and just kind of what brought you to this event overall.
So my history is I've been playing Magic since I was 7. I'm 29 this year, so I started off playing Playground, like Magic the Gathering, no sleeves, on like concrete, the scratched up cards everywhere. And then there was Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! For a little bit, like when I was like that 9, 10 range when they first came out. None of them really stick. And then in high school I got back into Magic at about 15, and I've been playing since. Like my first tournament was PDQ Honolulu when Mirrodin Block was the thing, and I was playing Slith Firewalker. Um, that was years and years ago. Still, like we're talking start of modern season in like current modern format. Been playing since. Haven't made the Pro Tour for that. Gotten a few close calls, and then over the years just loved playing card games. And then Star Wars Destiny was my favorite card game of all time. I have a regional championships where I played Rebel 5 with vehicles, and I remember in the finals, which I think is still there's still coverage of it. I got a planned explosion off on turn 1 off my natural 5 character die to kill a seventh sister, which just won the game on turn 1. And then came into Battle Spirits off a friend's recommendation for the launch event. He's like, I'm looking for people to play with. There's a bunch of money up for grabs. Like, let's try this and see how we go. So I played Nova at the first tournament, went 5, 1, and 2 across the 2 days of play, narrowly missing out on top 8, which would have been 6, 1, and 1 would have locked it. Going to time in my last round. I top 8'd Sydney after that, which qualified me for Pro Tour 1, where I bombed out horribly. I think I came 92nd or 93rd because I was playing Luster into a field of Pterosaur and White Purple before playing Melbourne for the Set 2 Grand Open, narrowly missing top 16 after hitting double Hong Kong players, which seems to be the bane of my existence, into Brisbane, which was a most last-minute decision to go ever. I'll blame Alex Blandlin on this one. He put the fear in me that Gale was the best deck. I didn't have Jaeger, so I was like, oh, I can't play this format. I'm not going to book my flights early. Shoutouts to Brian at my local store, The Gaming Verse. He had 3 Jaegers and was like, I'm not playing green. Just borrow them for the next few weeks. Go. Do well. I'll get them back after. So, booked my tickets and went from there.
Yeah, going back to, I gotta give a special shout out because I also played Star Wars Destiny, but have you had a chance to check out Star Wars Unlimited at all? Have any quick hot takes on if you like the game or not? I'm not sure if you had a chance to demo it or not, but it's pretty good.
We got it at PAX. It's amazing. I know that a lot of people in Melbourne are really hyped for it already. There's already, like, the formings of a community. We've already, like, because I'm working at a game store at the moment, we've ordered out pre-release packs. Like, it's all getting there. I'm really, really excited. It's Star Wars. I love Star Wars. I love the action system. We're now working with other stores in the area to not clash days so I can play it as much as I feel.
Yeah,
So, very excited.
The action system is one of my favorites from the various card games I've played over the years. So I was very happy to move. Playing with the dice from Destiny is pretty fun up front, but I think that's the pure RNG side of it, like literally rolling the dice, right, can turn off some people. So I do hope they'll check out Unlimited. And yes, I have to add my obligatory disclaimer on record is that yes, it is Fantasy Flight Games, and I've been hurt by them one too many times, but they do have a great organized play kind of video out there. And no, there won't be cash, but there'll at least be some prize cards. And, if it goes the way of like One Piece or Dragon Ball, where the prize cards, because of the IP, are worth something, that can be good enough. But that'll be probably a future video topic, because I do want to cover it at some point, just not sure when. But you had mentioned that you were going down and, kind of this last minute decision and trying to find cards in Australia, and just talking about like the oceanic scene overall, right? We don't have a lot, speaking from the NA or North America side, and I'd argue even in Europe, right? We have like the NA and EU pillars of Battle Spirit Saga, but we really don't have a lot of visibility into the other regions, just from a distributor issue, like how NA, it was like way overprinted. Set 1, set 2 is very flooded, but then in like Europe, it was impossible to find product, and they had a very healthy singles market, right? So there's just been this interesting dynamic between NA and Europe. But tell us a little bit about Oceania and how like the start of set 3 is going, because I think that's one of the major talking points right now. Is even in NA, while yes, the booster box price is still under what it should be, if you look at singles, it's very healthy, and SPRs even are selling for good amounts. So tell us a little bit how set 3 has been received in your region.
So I think to discuss this, we need to go back to set 1 and talk from the start. So because of our launch event, there was an abundance of product available. Stores still haven't sold out of their set 1 because everyone came to the launch event and bought it at launch. So you have all these stores that are sitting on set 1 products. So our order windows are also not as far in advance as the US, which meant that set 1 and set 2 don't have the same issues. So for us, like, we order Battle Spirits, I think it's 6 weeks before launch. That's as much time as we need to give a distributor. So a lot of stores...
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Hold on. So just for context, for those that don't know, the North American is 6 months that we have to put in orders. 6 weeks? Holy cow.
Yes. Yeah, so we can really tailor to what we see on the ground and do pre-orders and everything, because our distributor has enough product. Like, there's over 100 boxes in stock at a distributor level for set 3 right now. So I can go as a store and go, I need another case. Bang, it'll be delivered within the week. So we don't have the same issues on both sides of there being too much or too little. Some of the original starter decks are running out. Like, there's no more of the yellow one. There's a restock. But that's signs of a healthy game. Like, there's product needed. We're getting more product. We do have a little bit of the splash damage from the US singles market, in the sense that it was so cheap when I was at the Pro Tour that, shout out to Silk Road Gaming in New York, Darren, the owner there, told me a full set of set 2 master set for, I think it was like $140 US. Me and Kieran McNeil, who is on the Nexus podcast, both took up his offer to get master sets because it was just so much cheaper than both our respective regions.
Yeah, and that's something I definitely want to cover in a bit more detail. I'll probably do like a year 1 in review just to see like how the game has progressed. But the U.S. and I had a chance to talk with Jackie when I was over in the Netherlands for their Grand Open, and they're out of the Germany scene, where it's like, yeah, our boxes, they are super scarce. It's very hard to find product. We have to pay a lot for boxes, but then people think of what the international community looks like and then checks TCG Player. And yes, we have way more product available, but the singles prices are, bottomed out by comparison. So you can't have other regions that are still doing, just rounding it off, let's say $100 per box, and then having, $2 or less X rares. I think $2 was like the most expensive X rare in set 2. Like, it really fell off. And by comparison, now we have $20 X rares in set 3 with Mandala and Jaeger, who I did a video yesterday, and he was like 1 copy left at 20, probably sold out by now until somebody opens up more boxes. But it's been off to a pretty good start, all things considered.
So this really was highlighted at Pro Tour 1 when we were sitting around afterwards, having a few like pizzas and beers with like everyone from all the different regions. We were talking about promos and things like that, because Matt Belcher, who was on coverage this weekend, was buying Judge promos. And Judge promos for me in Australia were dirt cheap. Nobody wants them. Nobody's trying to bling out their decks. We're all just trying to go for base rarity. I have a Judge Duke on my table. I paid $20 for it, 20 Australian dollars. So there's a bit of that, and that's when we realized that there's actually a lot of opportunities of arbitraging these sort of things between regions. So Daniel, your Netherlands Grand Open champion, when he goes over to the UK, brings over his spare promos and sells them over there to help meet supply and demand issues on both sides. So really, really, certain players know how bad it is, and they do attempt to help friends in other regions for this reason.
Yeah, the shipping costs will get you otherwise, but if you're going over there, it's helpful just to like bring extra promos. I think that's another part too, right? We have the tournament pack volume 3. I know those are going to be some discussion points on how good or not Tournament Pack Volume 3 is yet. Remains to be seen overall, but that's another case. As stores are, coming off the game, as others are building up, the fluctuation in the market of how much TP promos are going to be available, if we think about from set 1 to set 2, is definitely less in set 3 and will be significantly less in set 4. So I definitely think this is going to be another area that we see that kind of like, hey, how's the global market doing? And is, whatever the next pro tour is, right? For example, if someone does have a surplus, you might just want to end up bringing them so other regions can get extra copies of the card. Now, then we don't think there's anything like Axe Spider level in Tournament Pack 3, so that's a good sign, but there very well could be something in Tournament Pack Volume 4, so we'll have to wait and see what that looks like. And there's always the possibility that we don't have, I think it's 12 cards in this one, if I'm not mistaken, but, Bandai could go down to 6 cards per TP pack, right? And just make it not as bad to fill out play sets for players that want them. Not every player gets, a play set of all 6 colors, to be fair, every colors playset, but it is something you want to make sure you have enough of a supply on. So with that being said, has there been any conversations in your region about how TP3 availability has been going? I know it's very early on in the meta. We have or I guess the set release, we still have, we have an extra month because of the delay, but we have quite a few weeks to go for players to be able to collect their promos and go out to their locals.
So my store recently received 6 TP3 kits already, and our TO who Let's Play Games, who is our TO and their organized play manager, Scott, has been great. He's like, if you need more for any reason, just tell us, we can get you more. Whatever you need for Battle Spirits, we'll help you every way we can. And he deals with all the Bandai games. So when I'm working with him, like, I need more One Piece. Yeah, no problem. We'll find more One Piece promos to give out. Oh, you're doing a grand opening. We'll find you something special, something old. Like, we get a lot of support because our organized play from the top down is run by one organization. You don't have core PPG as your tournament organizers who are different to your distributors, who are all having their own pieces of the puzzle of what they need to succeed. So your product comes from one supplier, but then your tournament organizer is a different supplier. So they don't always work in sync. For us, because it's one well-oiled machine on their side, everything's smooth.
Yeah, that is such a different comparison than what we have to deal with in the States. Huge slops to Alliance distribution. They're just awful. They have continued to be awful for us in Michigan. Full disrespect with my full chest. Like, the reps are just awful. On the other side, like Soho. Soho has been consistently great for a number Southern Hobbies. I should actually say that out for those who are not familiar. They've been great for a lot of the stores I've talked to. And then GTS has always been hit or miss, but like they're one of our biggest ones, at least in our area within the United States. So they're usually really good about promos, but it's been difficult. Like, we actually had to send, for the shop that I help out with, like, they had sent probably 6 or 7 emails just to get tournament promos before they finally showed up. Like, oh, hey, by the way, here, and it's not just Battle Spirits, it's for One Piece, it's for all the Bandai games, and they just continue to be absolutely awful. And of course, people will just say, oh, well, you can just change distributors. It's not always that easy, at least within the States, so you kind of do get stuck with them at times, but they have since been kind of looking at other ones and trying to build up relations just to see what other deals and what other revenue streams, honestly, that they have, because Alliance just keeps falling short time and time again. And I felt so bad because I'm finally coming back from the trip, got to talk to them this weekend, and it's like, all right, so let me tell you the newest Alliance drama, and it's just like, oh man, here we go again.
Oh my God,
I can definitely feel the frustration on the United States side of things, and hopefully for those in Europe, let us know in the comments below how the distribution channel has been. Hopefully better. That is all I can say.
Let me tell you the funny story is that our issues are actually Bandai. It's not our distribution network, in the sense that Bandai has failed to deliver the product to the distributor on time for them to send it out. So One Piece regionals in Brisbane, they're getting shipped their playmats because they haven't arrived yet. Our Treasurer Cup pricing hasn't arrived in the country yet.
Yep.
That's what the issue is. And even our launch event, we got it the Monday of us running the event. Like our sealed deck promos finally came in because they got unloaded and then was straight out the door to us.
Yeah.
So it's a Bandai delivery issue, not a distributor issue on our side. Unlike you guys in the States, which is the opposite way around. Is they have the inventory, they just don't care enough to send it. From what I've heard from a lot of stores.
Yep. To be fair, we also do still have, because I know what happened with Dragon Ball Super, if I'm not mistaken, there was an entire like TP promo shipment that just like got lost. So like an entire month's worth of promos got missed. I know on One Piece for the prizing, if you go in like Core TCG's Discord, and I think a few of the other TOs, they mentioned like, hey, we're still waiting for Bandai to send this. So we have to deal with like the double whammy on the North American side where it's like, please, Papa Bandai, send the stuff. And, you know, at least there's good communication that happens, right? Like the Core, PVG, all of them have been very good of, hey, we're waiting on Bandai to send this. Hey, we got it in on this date. Hey, it should be to you by X, Y, or Z, right? Like at least we're getting that level of communication where at the distributor level, again, I can only speak for Alliance and what my home store deals with. It's much like, hey, we're typing you another email. This is our third ask of where are these promos at? And it's fucking stone silence of it. And you just hate to see it. So, you know, these are definitely challenges that we have to continue to face going forward in both distributor side, Bandai having to make sure they're getting stuff out on time where possible. Hopefully everything is good for Bandai Fest. I mean, that's coming around the corner. And what is it? It's Worlds for Battle Spirits, Nationals for everybody else, right? They're doing all these premium Bandai bundles. And they say pick up on site, and I am so crossing my fingers that everything goes smoothly there because it's going to be cool to pick that stuff up. I think Bandai Fest will be a really amazing time, and I hope people can make it for Worlds that are qualified for that weekend because it's going to be good just to have a major celebration of everyone kind of under one roof and being excited about it. So with that said, I know that you talked about your Pro Tour 1 experience and we have the other Pro Tour coming up. You know, are you going to be making out to Pro Tour 3, do you think? Our recent champion. And would you go to Worlds if you have the ability to?
So I'm actually looking at flights at the moment for Atlanta and Pro Tour 3 due to the close proximity. Looking at who I'm staying with, like talking with the team, like talking with the Aussies on how many of us are flying out. Did we want to stay together or did I want to stay with my conglomerate of international friends? Just sort of getting the details, but it's looking like it's pretty likely that I'll be going to Portland to try and get my Worlds invite. And if I get my Worlds invite, then it's the discussion of do I play One Piece Nationals here at home in Australia or do I fly out for Worlds? And it's probably going to end up being flying out for Worlds because I'd be crazy to miss out on a World Championships for something.
Yeah, given the prizing and giving...
It's for R2 every time, but like, if there's one person in the room I'm losing to 100%, it's got to be him.
And that's another thing to think about too. Like again, for us in the States, like my flight to Atlanta is literally like $67 before taxes and all that. And then my flight to Portland was definitely more expensive, but was still, I think it was like 400 or 500, something like that. But you know, that's kind of the price I'm used to paying when we go from one coast to the other. You just accept that it's going to be $400 to $500. And I know we were talking about this right before we started the recording, so I guess it's a good topic to bring on the recording as well. How do you feel about price support for those in the other regions, especially thinking about Australia and just how expensive it is to fly, right? You can think about it from, hey, if you get first, you're able to cover it. That's great. Second place, you might have to consider. And then like third and lower, you're probably not flying out unless you just really want to go to the event. So what do you think might be a solution? Again, we don't have any leaks here. We don't know anything confirmed, right? But what do you think would be a good solution looking forward to year 2, right? Is there anything that you think that Bandai can do that would help to get more people to travel if they continue this kind of like worldwide structure? Or is it just, hey, to be fair, at the end of the day, more prize money? Or could it just be more prize money to try to incentivize those? Or maybe you break it to like 1 through 4, right? What do you think is a good solution for Bandai wanting to keep this global structure and make sure the other regions feel included?
So in Australia, our Grand Open numbers are so small that you need to go 2-3 at a Grand Open in Brisbane to make top 32. Yeah, so you can. I think there was 3 people who went 2-3 that missed out on making cash,
Rest in
and
peace.
a lot of them were Brisbane locals. So like for them, it's their first taste of prize money. So it feels good that they're getting rewarded for playing the game. I think that's a really good sign, a really healthy sign. As somebody who was in Melbourne, who we had the launch event and we also had a Grand Open, I'll tell you the story of Mark. He was a casual player. He literally 2 weeks before was like, I don't think I'm good enough to play at a Grand Open. I told him, show up, win 2 games, you'll make $300, like 300 Australian dollars, 250 USD. Like it'll be fine. Just come and play. It's gonna be a fun day. He proceeds to top 16.
That's a pretty good
50
day.
something players. So like, yeah, I think on that side of things, it's great for getting people from that LGS level up to the next level with that really generous prize structure down to top 32. In the US, you have to still what 5-4-3, 5-3?
Yeah, 4-3 or 5-2, depending on the size of the event.
Yeah, and that feels a little bit more competitive than what we're dealing with here. So maybe in smaller regions, it's top 16 make money, and then you redistribute the others towards a travel allowance for your top 8. So depending on how many of the top 8 want to go, we get a different amount of travel allowance to help us get there. Because I know my Pro Tour 1 total was 5,000 Australian dollars is what I spent on the trip return with a week in New York on holiday.
Nope.
I made so in Battle Spirits before that point, having played Sydney and played the launch event, I made 3,000 Australian dollars. So I was out of pocket $2,000 to go on that trip. But you ask me now, do I regret it? No. Did I regret it at the time? No. Because afterwards, like we had that giant taco fiasco. Remember? Like, did you see that? Shout out to Hippocampo, Aaron.
Oh, Aaron,
we love you.
I feel so bad because it's always just going to be Taco Aaron now because of the way my brain works, and that is what it is. Sorry, Aaron.
Our Discord that we're all in is called Taco Club, and the picture is that taco.
Hell
like,
yeah.
The memories you make and the friends you make along the way is the best part of it. And then on the Monday afterwards, it was Aaron, Sampo, Kieran, and I. We went to Applebee's in Times Square to do the truly American thing. So I never regretted it at the time, but it actually has formed the basis of how I've done since then in tournaments. In the sense that I played red mid-range. Why? Because Daniel told me to play red mid-range. And look what happened in the US when they played red mid-range. Same results.
Yeah.
So it's that global game feeling that I really enjoy is the fact that we built a team because we were going to be playing each other in Grand Opens. That was the thinking. And we've just gone from strength to strength.
And that's a great lead in too when we think about, when all these grand openings are happening back to back to back, the meta doesn't have a lot of time to adapt as we saw in season 2 or even season 1. So it was very much the, hey, Gale is tier 0 mentality, doesn't show up, everyone just plays yellow in Netherlands, and then flash forward to the Brisbane and Pasadena Grand Opens that we just had this past weekend, and we'll get Ryan Matas, who also won with red mid-range on the channel as well, but it was very much of, oh, what beats yellow? By the way, it's red. People play red, and it does well. And what's really funny, if you actually look at the breakdown for, at least in Pasadena, because I don't think we got beyond top 8 for Brisbane, unfortunately, but there was very little red, all things considered, and then red said, nope, we're winning this whole thing, baby. And that's exactly what Ryan did. So on one side of this, right, it always is going to be a meta call. And I think set 3 is finally the set where a lot of people are going to have to just stomach it and realize that it's not as much rock, paper, scissors as everyone wants to be. And I know this is a much larger conversation that needs to happen. But at the end of the day, you're always going to have a matchup like red beats yellow. Red is going to lose to white, right? You're going to have those hard pillars that stand against one another, and then you can sideboard for the rest of the matchups. And we did see a lot of red, green, and yellow make the top cuts for this past weekend, but I would argue that there's actually a little bit more variety that you can see in there once people have time to test the new cards and the meta gets to be explored quite a bit. Because again, huge shout out to Purple. That was a color that like everybody wrote off, and then also had a really good showing with very few people playing it this past weekend. So I think there's a lot more for this meta to really open up and be discovered. But you kind of mentioned already, and you talked to Daniel, and we talked about a lot of red coming up, but really what, other than the rise of yellow, right? That's like the dead giveaway, but what really led you to playing red in this event, playing the good old Dragno King and just Scorch Battlefield goodness at the top end, and how did it perform for you over the event? Like, what were some of your matchups? Was yellow as free as you attended? And then kind of, what was one of the more difficult matchups that you might have faced during the Swiss or in Top Cut as well?
Okay, so to be brutally honest, I jumped onto red at about 1 a.m. Saturday morning.
That's always the best.
Brutal honesty, like when I give Daniel props, you guys don't realize how much that this is actually his win pulling puppet strings. He sent me the deck list and said, Wei, trust me, play this shell, fill it out with whatever flavor you want, you will win. You will take down the tournament. He said, dodge Gale, and you'll be fine. So I put my blind faith in my friend, who is a Grand Open champion, who broke the meta the week before, and went, cool, I'm playing yellow, which I've practiced with for the last 2 weeks. I tried Red Nova, didn't get close. Cool. Blind faith in you. I had not played Dragno King before round 1. And then proceeded to lose round 1 to Manticore, multiple Manticores, and the Big Tix boys.
That was a spicy list, though. I really do like that one.
But it's the natural predator to my deck, in the sense that it has no Nexuses, and I have 9 main deck Nexus pops. And also, I had no clue what they were doing. Like, I didn't know how to board. I didn't know what I was, like, looking for in my openers. Like, once you see the deck list on day 2, it's, find Starblast draw, outvalue them, play aggressive tempo. My dudes are bigger. They have no tricks. I'm going to get you. And that was one of the biggest decks of the weekend that came out of nowhere.
Yeah, I was a huge fan of the list because it goes back to, and I covered this a little in the previous video I did on the channel, but one, you get that surprise value, right? There's a lot to be said about taking a list that not a lot of people are expecting. Like, we played the Kai at the Pro Tour. A lot of people just were like scratching their head, what are you doing? And then I played the Kai and got all the value, right? There's a lot of value in just surprising your opponent that way and really just having creativity with the deck building. But at the same time, if a lot of the strength falls in just your opponent not knowing, you're immediately going to fall short in top 8 if it's not actually a good list. A lot of this did happen with white aggro going all the way back to the launch events where they'll go, oh, you're playing white aggro? I can't play a Nexus on turn 1? That's fine. And then you just play bodies, right? And you wall off white aggro that way a lot of times. So it's one of those things that I think is really great that we can see in Swiss, but you really have to be careful and see how it actually performs when you get to top 8. And to their credit, they did get top 4. So clearly it worked out for them, right? Or one of the 2 lists that made top 8 got to top 4. So it's also very exciting to see. But yeah, just ramp good stuff. It turns out cores are good as long as you can play out the cards in your hand that you get from like Elephant or draw effects or what have you. So curious to see how that list kind of evolves as the meta goes on, and if anyone else tries to pick it up and do something with it.
2 of them made top 4 actually. Mitch and Nick both made top 4 before falling to purple and red.
Okay.
So it felt like, looking at the matches, a few of their opponents got a little unlucky with not drawing spirits at the right time with double Phantasmal Paradise out. Like, certain things had to fall in their favor, but it still looked like a solid deck even in Hop Cup.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the problem when I've looked at like 24 deck lists in the last 24 hours or whatever it's been at this point, where it's like just trying to digest all of this and compile the data and figure out what it means for like a meta-analysis standpoint. But so again, tell us, I know you said you lost that first round, but how did some of the other rounds go, and what were some other matchups?
So I faced a green Swift list, which was very reminiscent of what you played. That one, red naturally just predators on anything small.
Yep.
So Burning Force, Andromedas, they have when summons in Shrike. It's, I get my Starblast draw value as well now. And like, Dino Man just overperforms in that matchup, to be real. Like, green can't beat a Dino Man, let alone the rest of the deck, so it just sort of got outvalued. I faced Star Dragons, so good old Nova. Because he's relying so heavily on his canyons to get value. My 9 main deck Nexuses just meant that there were multiple turns where he started the turn, 12 cores, nothing on board. Game 2, I'll give him props. He goes turn 1 Dino on going first into turn 2 Rain Needle, Bearded Eagle, swing.
Oh.
I went on going second. Bearded Eagle put 2 cores on it. So he goes attack with the Rain Needle. I go take the first one. He goes second Rain Needle. I go take the second one. He goes attack with my Dynamite. I go block. He's like okay. So he goes attack with Bearded Eagle, and I go, well, I guess I have to give up my Bearded Eagle to Burning Force the last 2. So I had no board. He had 2 Rain Needles, but he was down a lot of cards. So I just slapped an Andromeda into play, killed a Rain Needle, and he scooped them up. He's just like, this game's over.
Yeah, but
I respect him for finding a line that should have worked most of the time. It's the most threatening line that he could have played.
yeah, and it's not something you're ever going to expect out of the Nova deck either, which are going to be usually very late mid range, try to set up their combos. Like, hey, sometimes they do just high roll and get the early Nova combo if he's playing like Big Bang as well. But a lot of times you can be pretty slow and just really rely on the Dino Man to hold you out and Volcanic to find your pieces.
Yeah. And then I faced Yellow, Dan, who's a nice guy. He's got an MMA background. He's a military guy. Dude scares the shit out of me. Like, big tough guy. Absolutely friendliest guy though.
I just
And
love
he
the
was on
stereotype
Yellow.
of big tough guy plays cute yellow deck. Love it. Love
Yeah.
it here.
He played white purple at the last event, and I beat him in the last round playing for top 16. So we had our rematch, and he was on yellow, and I was on red, and I'm like, this is not gonna be fun, dude. I am sorry, and it just was merciless. Like, oh, you can't stick a Nexus, you can't stick anything to the board. Have you met my friend Ritual Fire out of the board? It does not help.
Ooh. Yeah, it's a matchup I do not look forward to ever.
Yeah, and then my playing for top 8 was against Marco Kwok, who was top 8 of the first Pro Tour. He was on yellow, and the double heart won me the game. So he swings, he's at 3 life. He has a Hippocampo up. So I go Thorn Prison, attack with my first dude, he takes it, and then I attack with my second dude with the Soul Core, and he goes no blocks, and I go double heart. And his Ice Shield, non-factor.
Yep, double heart will get you. And I know that shout out to Prim from the Pro Tour. He was playing what we like to call Nebby 2 Strikes or Nebula Dragon. And same thing, like a lot of the time, maybe less so with Gale in the meta and wanting to stay at 3, but previously the thought was like, oh, you go down to 2 life and then you just chain out your ice shields. And that's not always the case anymore. You will get caught off guard, especially with Luster being able to have the Soul Core on Michaela because you want to play your stuff for free. You try to combo with like Shin or Flagellum. They waste all their resources on that. And then you go, all right, well, swing with Michaela, double heart, you're still dead, right? Because they have to use so much to try to turn off your Luster package, or they just lose to the card advantage anyways. So shout out to double heart. I have, I think, 2 SPRs right now. Probably don't ever need more than 2 SPRs, but love the SPR. Definitely want to try to get somebody with it sometime soon.
That was the MVP of the weekend, honestly. Like, Dragno King's good, but double heart just one takes games that you should not be winning and just slams it down. Like, even in my finals, my opponent played a Minduke. Black Minduke with 4 counters on it. On my board, I go, Thorn Prison, he's at 3. Attack the first one. He knows my list has double heart in it. But he takes the first shot, goes to 2. I swing with the second, and double heart to get him. And him talking with his friends was like, he needed that extra core, and he had to risk me having it. That was the trade-off. He needed the core to try and stabilize.
Oh.
So, the punish.
Yep. Very, yeah, I definitely look forward to seeing what other lists can kind of cheat it in there because, it is a lot at 7 cores, and if I remember correctly, it's 3 red reduction, but a lot of times, especially in like the K pile list or the multiple Manticore, right? You can just get enough cores sometimes. Like, you are just okay paying 7 if it's going to win you the game. So it's one thing that I didn't have it in my list for the versus video that should be out sometime. I don't know when, but it's something I'm going to probably throw back in there just to have as a fun of for sure.
Yeah. So the Big Ticks boys, Nick and I did talk about it in this list, and they were just like, it was too cute. It didn't do enough for them. So they had tried it in that list. I know Matt Belcher, because I was talking with him all day during the Grand Open, was like, that double heart is spicy, and he regrets not playing one on his side. So it probably would have won him more games, because who plays around double heart nowadays? Like,
nobody.
Yeah, like, it's a free punish. Like, I will gladly play into an Ice Shield if I have a double heart. Like, if you don't respect the card, you're just going to lose. But at the same time, if you need a greed for the core, that's the risk you take.
Yeah, sometimes you are set with that choice of like, well, if he has it. There's nothing else you can do because that's just card games at the end of the day. So thinking about top 8, anything that was memorable in your matches otherwise that you want to call out or reflect on, or again, just other than double heart, what was really the big card that performed well for you in the list and is kind of a staple for you going forward as this kind of red mid-range shell starts to develop more as the meta unfolds?
So, my top 8 match against Floyd Long, I look at my hands halfway through game 3, and I turn to everybody around me, and I'm like, I'm 90% losing this game. My hand is 3 Dragno King, um, and I did not have enough cores. He laughs and he's like, I probably have a worse hand than you. And so we play out the game. I kill a bunch of his things and just slowly chip in with Dragno King turn after turn as he's answering them as purple. At the end of the game, he reveals triple feral slash in his hand, and I had not had a nexus.
Oh. Yep. I'll definitely take the triple drag no by comparison.
Yeah, but we both had a good laugh that we both thought we were losing that game because of how bad our hands both were. And then top 4 against Nick. Like, Nick is great. He's friendly. Pretty sure me and him were both slightly hungover still because we went rampant in the Discord the night before without him with his red vodka energies. Like, not many of us took top 8 very seriously, I don't think. Like, the Australians are so relaxed in top 8. We're here to still play games and have fun. It's not, I'm going to edge you out on every single rule sharky thing.
That's good.
And
Keeping the friendly sportsmanship in it, even with a lot of money on the line, all things considered, is a good attitude to have for sure. And something I definitely appreciate about for the little bit of time that I got to travel for the North American and the one Europe event I got to go to is that overall the community does feel very friendly. And there will be times, especially if it's top 8, we're a little bit more stickler with it in terms of like, hey, nope, you can't do that, or let's call a judge to fix this board state sort of thing. But overall, through Swiss, people are very friendly and very open to like welcoming in new players.
yeah, and I think that's the mentality we need to have as a community. Like, to sort of balance out us being a small game, is that we need to welcome every new person that comes in. And Australians really do that. And then the finals was purple against red. We know how this matchup plays out. Like, he has to play around Star Blast draw. He played a Black Lance and didn't draw 2 cards purposely because he knew I had a Star Blast. Like, Sam is a fantastic player, but it's also, we know that red beats up on purple.
Yep.
This has gone back to set 1, and there's not much he can do about it.
Yeah, I do love that dynamic of like, hey, here's Gale, here's some new really cool set 3 stuff that's going on, and like costume artist is definitely a big one for purple. And then in some ways you boil it down to like, oh, well, red is going to beat up on yellow and purple because here's X, Y, and Z reasons why they're good in them, right? And it's funny to watch this all play out again just with some kind of new cards overall. But again, I think a lot of that is just how Battle Spirits as a game is designed. And then, you know, if we see the rise of white maybe in Liverpool to prey on all the red decks that will just fold very hard to it, right? It's going to be interesting to see how much the meta can develop because keeping in mind, Genbu is going to be a horrible time for anyone who tries to play white in Liverpool. So very interesting to see how this dynamic will change going into this next Grand Open.
I think one of the biggest things you need to look at going forward is like, we now have all the colors. We've never previously had 6 colors in the game. And why was red so dominant at the start? It's because purple and yellow are naturally good matchups, and they were 2 of the 4 starting colors. So now that we have all the colors, it might take people more time to get their heads around it, but is white good enough? Maybe if you dimensional rift an elephant into play on turn 2, like, you could probably win a game, maybe 2. So there's probably ways to revolutionize how we play the game that nobody's explored yet, because we finally have all our colors. We finally get to play with Allegro, which you read it, it doesn't seem that good, but it's your favorite card apparently.
Yeah, it is mine. Like, I was playing a blue-white shell at locals just for our like store champ stuff, and Allegro is a card that I keep going back to because a lot of people think you need to have a dedicated mill package to like get to 10, but at the same time, like if you're playing a white control shell package, you're naturally going to get your opponent to 10 cards anyways. And like, I'm still playing the block golem because it's just a good blocker anyways. And sometimes that extra like 1 attack to mill 3 is all that it takes. But I had a turn in the deck where it's just like, all right, I have my Nexus online. Here's my Allegro with like 15 cores on it, so you can't core theft it. And now I'm threatening 5 attacks off 1 spirit, and he's going to kill something every time. So it can really punish people who try to swing out because it's like you dream bomb their last guy because they're only going to leave up 1 blocker most of the time. Slam them on the board, eat up their entire board, and it comes down to the same thing as, not as cool as the Green Void Lord, but it still presents the same question. You have to have an Ice Shield or a Dream Bomb, or you will just lose to Allegro. So yes, he does require a little bit more setup, which does break my heart. He is very expensive. You know, he's a 10 core play technically if you want to try to go for the kill with him, but I found out very quickly when you have elephants behind it and you're trying to play a longer game anyways, spoiler, you're going to get to the 10 cards and you're going to have the cores to play him. So I love the dude in mono blue. I think mono blue in general is still just going to be like a top 16, type of list. If someone can break it into top 8, I love you. Please do it for me. But otherwise, I think like a white blue shell going forward is where I'll be spending a lot of this set because they just pair very well together. And I've been very happy with my technically 6 color K pile deck, but it's largely 2 colors, and you have like Beldegor because it's purple, Scoops, which is green, and then I have like a Ryut in there just to protect the Allegro from getting bounced, and you get it back from K anyway, so you always discard it early sort of thing. So yeah, super fun list. More on that in the near future.
Yeah, definitely excited for where the game goes in the future. Like, we've got this format with, 12 new cards for Atlanta and then for the Pro Tour? So, there'll be innovations coming. We'll see what we're cooking up. I know that my team going into the last Pro Tour, we had some spicy lists that never saw the light of day. Like, Sacred Thundering Peaks, shenanigans running around, like, the pros, like, us that play seriously do try things. That is not wrong. Most of them will never see the light of day, unfortunately, but there are some really cool things running around.
Yeah, I got a lot of fun brews that I'm very lucky I had to show off on the channel. Probably will never go to a tournament with them, but hopefully can inspire others to take up some new innovation and try out some new things and, find things I might have missed that worked out better. And then you finally, magically will into a more competitive deck that, can surprise people. Because I think we're finally getting to the point with set 3 and then absolutely with set 4 where one, we have all the colors, which is super important, but more so, like, the card pool is getting deep enough now and starting to get very interesting that there's a lot of really cool and fun combos that you can pull off and reward you. Again, going back to the, like, if your opponent doesn't know, Fable Beast, it's basically a known list. You're going to know 45 out of the 50 cards, right? But if you're playing like a K pile deck, they probably only know 20. And there's a lot of strength in that, it turns out. So very excited to see where that goes. But again, huge congrats to your win. And then here at the very end of this Champions Corner, I want to give you a chance to give a shout out to, your locals, anyone who's helped test you. We got Daniel that shout out, of course, but any last minute thoughts or shout outs that you want to give here before we wrap things up?
So last minute shout outs would be the gaming verse where I work. We'll always support Battle Spirits. I'm pretty sure I have a master set in the store at the moment. So you want to come in and play, I can build nearly anything. And then there's also Kieran McNeil, shout out to him. Aaron, Taco, Hippocampo, Dave. R2, because watching him play, I feel like I am the worst player in the world just watching him on Discord. Like, I've watched him a few times, I just feel horrible. Like, it's just not close. That guy is a monster. And yeah, those are definitely the big international shout-outs. And then Floyd Long, who owns a store up in Brisbane. Delightful guy, really fun opponent in top 8. And also Darren Ng, who I consider my biggest Battle Spirits rival, because me and him trade top 16s in every single event. He top 4'd the launch event, and has sort of had my number at every local since. Like, I'm not even the best player at my locals half the time. He's there. He has one fatal flaw. He loves playing Luster. So when I bring red decks, I know that I'm going to win, but it does not feel like I actually outskill him. But he also should be going to Portland, so you might see a few Aussies flying out.
I really hope I do. Again, really, the big part of going over to the Europe Grand Open for me is I just really want to meet more of the community out that way, because, again, it's really great to talk to people who are in the community and traveling for the game. Everyone's been super wonderful, and I just want to meet more players at the end of the day. So hopefully at Pro Tour 3 and then Worlds, of course, we'll have a lot more of that. And, Worlds being its own grand end-of-year celebration, I think there'll be a lot of positive news around that time. So there'll be a lot of celebration that we'll be very much looking forward to after how the first half of the year started. But good things are definitely coming very soon for Battle Spirit Saga. So With that, Wei, thank you again for joining us on the channel to talk about your event. Huge congrats on being the champion, getting a nice little chunk of change that you're going to use to travel, it turns out, because it is so expensive, but happy to hear that you'll be coming on over our side. And with that, my friends, if you have any other, questions you want more in the Champions Corner, or if you want to be on the Champions Corner, go out there and win and have fun with the game. But with that, until next time, stay safe, stay hydrated, and we'll see you in the next video. Cheers.